So what are we going to talk about today? It's the thought I had several months ago when I started to think about this annual meeting. I chuckled to myself, it's the same thought I've had for each of the past 24 years. You see, I've been very blessed and I've been honored to be employed at NewMac for 25 years, the last 22 years as your general manager. And for 24 years, I've talked to you at this annual meeting. 24 years of annual meeting addresses. That's a really long time. That's it. I actually said it out loud. Today we're going to talk about the last 25 years at NewMac, the last quarter century. Since it's our 80th anniversary, I thought that'd be a good tie-in. NewMac Electric was formed by the people, for the people, back in the late 1930s. 80 years later, we're still going strong. The cooperative has a strong legacy of service, and that legacy will continue. It will continue because we are owned by the people that we serve. I'm very proud as to how we have carried that legacy on for the past 25 years, and I'd like to discuss it some more. So today's talk is going to be very personal to me. Please allow me a few minutes to reminisce. Let's start out many years ago, 1998 to be exact. You see, 1998 was the first year I was manager at the co-op. I was very nervous as we got close to the annual meeting. We had started down a road to make major changes at the co-op. We were beginning to make major changes and upgrades to our electric system and expand our right-of-way program. I went about explaining those processes to you and talked a lot about the importance of returning capital credits, a theme that we carry on today. The news was very well received. The very next year, 1999, was another big year for us. We had endured what at that time seemed to be a big ice storm on January 1st. We also talked about the huge snowstorm that we had in March of 1999. But the big topic of that meeting was the potential risk we were dealing with as we approached Y2K. Now, how many remember Y2K? Well, the good news there is we all survived. The world actually didn't end. And that year we celebrated our 60th year anniversary. When 2000 came along, we talked about Y2K. And we talked about the 7 cooperative principles for the first time. Those principles have always been very important to me. Every year since, somewhere in my speech, I've talked about them. And today will be no different. In October of 2000, none of us had any idea that we were living in a state of innocence. That innocence would be shattered the very next year. Our meeting in 2001 was very solemn. Our country was deeply plunged in the war on terrorism. We were a little over a month since the 9/11 attacks. It's a time we'll never forget. It was going to be a long fight. While we still don't know what the future will bring, we all know that our great country remains strong. During the annual meetings of 2002 through 2005, we talked about the storms we'd had in the area. We talked about the horrible Pierce City tornado in 2003, the derecho wind event that we had the 4th of July on 2004, and the 30 days a group of our linemen spent in Oklahoma rendering help after an ice storm in 2002. We also talked about all the growth we had experienced in the 2002 to 2005 time range. In 2005, we announced that NewMac sales were up 70% over a 10-year period. That huge growth spurt still has an impact on the cooperative today. In 2006, I got to open the annual meeting by leading the crowd in a chair for the freshly crowned world champion St. Louis Cardinals, who had won the World Series the night before. We also had an in-depth discussion of the changes going in the industry that would cause us to raise our rates going forward. The 2007 discussion centered largely around the massive, I'll say it one more time because it really was, the massive ice storm we had in January of that year. Now, how many remember that? Everybody. At one time, we had 350 people working on that storm. it was deemed to be a 100-year event. Some people were out as long as 2 weeks. At the height of the storm, 88% of our meters set in the dark. And what a catastrophe it was. But everyone, employees, contractors, mutual aid workers, family, friends, and neighbors worked together, and we made it through. We also announced in the past 10 years before, we had returned in excess of $13 million to the membership and benefits. This number continues to grow today. 2008 and 2009 brought further discussion of storms and their impacts. The December 2007 ice storm, the deadly May 2008 tornado that went across Newton County, as well as our crews assisting in 2 hurricanes in 2008 and working in southeast Missouri for 3 weeks during the 2009 ice storm. We also celebrated our 70th anniversary and highlighted one of the original leaders of the cooperative, Mr. J.B. Sims. The highlight of the next couple of years at the annual meeting was the discussion of the Cardinals winning the 2011 World Series. Now, while it seemed like that was going to be old hat, it hasn't happened since. We also talked about the winds of change spreading through our industry, changing the resource mix to one that was not as dependent on coal. We also spoke of the deadly Joplin tornado and how it impacted our system. I also talked to you about the February 2011 blizzard and the group of us that had to sleep at the office. Now that's a night I'll never forget. 2012 and 2013 was highlighted with a visit from Governor Nixon to our office. We also discussed with you the new 345 kV line that Associated Electric had built to enhance our reliability. In 2012, we had a lengthy discussion about an attempt an IOU and the state was making to build a small modular nuclear reactor in central Missouri. The project never got off the ground, but it was very informative and educational. The 2014 through 16 meetings covered a lot of topics. In 2014, we celebrated our 75th anniversary with a video highlighting many of the people from the past and present. The star of that show was my good friend, Virgil Winchester. Virgil died just a few days after that annual meeting, and I still miss Virgil today. 2015 kicked off our programs for the young people in our service area. We started our scholarship program, youth tour, and cycle programs that year. They've been very, very successful. We've helped a lot of youth, and it continues today. 2016 was an important year for me because I got to talk about my dad, who had passed away in 2010. I told you about the great advice he gave me as a boy and his motto he passed to me to just do the right thing. We also talked about the upcoming 2016 presidential election. In 2017, we talked about the beginning of the cooperative and the Rural Electrification Act. It still amazes me today the work that was performed by the folks that came before us. We also discussed a meeting we attended with the EPA administrator. 2017 marked our 20th consecutive year of capital credit returns. Over $24 million of total benefit had been returned to the members over that time. So that brings us to last year, 2018. We highlighted by talking about the ties that bind all the members of the cooperative. We also discussed the impact of the continued government regulations in all facets of our industry. And we highlighted the $1 billion that Associated Electric had spent on government regulations over a 2-decade period. So there you have it, folks. I call it NEWMAC history as I know it. And as far as the legacy of service that we talked about before, it's as strong as ever. It will remain strong because we are all responsible to each other. That legacy of service will continue into the future, and it will always be part of our rich history, and you can bank on that. I have this profound confidence because of our guiding 7 cooperative principles. They are voluntary and open membership to all, democratic control by you, the member owner, economic participation by each member, autonomy and independence, providing education, training, and information, cooperation among cooperatives, and lastly, concern for community. These principles have and will always continue to shape everything we do. Mark Twain once said, "Always do the right thing. This will gratify some people and it will astonish the rest." I used that quote in my 2006 speech, and in reflection on my quarter century of addresses, I've got a few more good ones to share. As Twain said, though, we always want to be about doing the right thing, like giving back patronage capital credits to you. So, for the 22nd consecutive year, we are returning capital credits, this year totaling approximately $1.2 million. This retirement represents 35% of the margins from 1999 and will go to members from that year. Add that amount to past capital credit retirements and rate abatements, and you come up with a total of nearly $27 million over the past 22 years that we've given back to you, the members of the co-op. I'm very proud of that. We always talk about rates at the annual meeting, and I'm sure you're wondering what 2020 will bring. Until we go through the budget process, it's just too early to say. In order to maintain reliability, our supplier, KMO Power, has had to invest over $500 million in transmission system improvements, and our generation cooperative, Associated Electric, in order to stay ahead of potential government regulations, is purchasing generation from 2 more wind farms in northwest Missouri starting in 2020. But I will tell you what I hope our track record has proven. We will never raise your rates until we absolutely have no other choice. And that is a promise. If we have an increase, it'd be effective January 1st. It'd show up in the bill you get in February. We will give you all the details on this in the January newsletter. George Washington Carver said, "When you do the common things in life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world." That quote came from my 2012 speech. What Carver said, I believe, speaks to the kind of work we accomplished this past year. And now we're going to show you a video called the 2019 Year in Review.
At NewMac Electric, we're proud of our legacy of service, and we want to do everything we can to build on our rich history. Legacies are formed through dependability. In 2019, we bolstered our system reliability by replacing approximately 40 miles of poles and conductor in the areas of Ritchie, Granby, Neosho, and Newtonia. Meanwhile, we inspected and replaced hundreds of poles in the areas of Sims, Jane, Knoll, and Anderson. While such improvements are important, so is systematic right-of-way maintenance. In 2019, NewMac will spend approximately $2.7 million in this never-ending challenge of keeping trees away from around 3,000 miles of line. This includes feeder clearing in the areas of Pineville, Bethpage, Lanigan, and Anderson, and 300 miles of low-volume brush control spraying around Knoll, Tiff City, and Diamond. Of course, weather also plays a big role in our operations. This past year saw considerable flooding in the area from April through July. Then in late August, destructive straight-line winds ripped across McDonald County, causing more than $500,000 in damage to our system. With the help of 3 neighboring cooperatives and contractors, including 7 additional brush crews, we restored power to all of our members within 3 days. While all of these efforts are about providing electricity to the homes of our members, we're also ever focused on getting our employees safely home to their families each night. Not only did NUMAC linemen and brush crews work safely in 2019, individually they joined a national safety initiative called Commitment to Zero Contacts.
The Commitment to Zero Contact is a recommitment to safety that's been made by myself, the board, and the employees of NUMAC Electric. Its purpose is simple: do whatever it takes to be safe for the employees and the public. In my pocket every day, I carry this coin. And the purpose of that coin is to remind me the most important thing we do each and every day at NUMAC Electric is safety, and that will never change.
True to our legacy, we also continued to follow defining cooperative principles such as education, training, and information, and concern for community. We continued our free NUMAC University seminar series. We taught safety to school children, awarded college scholarships, and sent high school students to our national and state capitals. Michaela Mustang from McDonald County High School and Samantha Walker from Joplin represented NUMAC in Washington, D.C. at Youth Tour, and Summer McCool from McDonald County and Emily Galbraith from Neosho attended the Cooperative Youth Conference and Leadership Experience in Jefferson City. Also part of our work in 2019 is reflecting on the finances of the co-op through the previous year as we assess our future by looking at our past. The year-end numbers through 2018 were strong. Sales from the past year were over $44 million and operating margins were approximately $3.6 million. Meanwhile, net margins were over $5.1 million and NUMAC's total assets exceeded $118 million. As you can see, we're working hard to preserve a legacy. It's been built over 80 years of serving you, our members. It's our legacy of service.
I was serious about that coin. That little coin kind of looks like a poker chip. It's in my pocket every single day. Let's put it this way, if I've got pants on, this is on me. It's very important. Thomas Edison said, "There's no substitute for hard work." I used that quote in 2016, and after watching the video, I believe it's still true today about your NUMAC employees. Will the employees please stand? I'd like to give them a round of applause. I also believe we should recognize the NUMAC Electric Board of Directors for the direction that they have given us. Would the board please stand? Also, please join with me in appreciation for the staff here at Crowder College who have been such a big help with this event today. In closing, I believe that we strive to do our best at NUMAC Electric, and I'm very thankful for that. As people have asked me what I'm most proud of at NUMAC, it really makes me think. First of all, I'm proud of the employees who work together every day to provide electricity for our customers. I'm proud that we have a strong and unyielding commitment to safety. Folks, we perform very dangerous work on a daily basis, and we have adopted a saying at NUMAC, and it is, everybody goes home at night. It is absolutely the most important thing we do. I'm also proud of the members entrusting us to run their business for them. I can honestly say that I couldn't have asked for a more supportive group of members. People who were once just acquaintances to me are now my personal friends. Additionally, I'm proud to have worked for a board who gave me the chance to do my job. I always have appreciated the trust and the support that they have given me. So what's all this mean, this discussion that we've had here today? It means that the legacy of service is as strong at the co-op as it's ever been. The service is evident when a customer calls with a question, when he comes into the office to pay a bill, or to close out a count. It's evident when a new work order is built, when the trees are trimmed out of the right-of-way, or when an outage is restored at 3:30 in the morning in the pouring rain. It's evident when you see us supporting the county fair, serving on a civic club, or hosting one of our educational series that we call New Mac University. I'm proud of what we've accomplished. I think each and every one of you in this room today. And I leave you with a promise. That is, New Mac Electric will continue in the future to be the service provider that we've proven to be over the last 80 years. The legacy of service will continue to be in the forefront of our minds. And what a grand plan it is. It's by the people, for the people. Thank you.